Show.
Welcome to episode 108 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. Thank you so much for listening and watching us on YouTube as well. The 2023 NHL Draft is officially in the books. The Toronto Maple Leafs selecting London Knights forward Easton Cowan, 28th overall in the first round. We are going to give you our thoughts and opinions on the Leafs draft, the NHL draft in general. We're going to talk about Toronto bringing back Sheldon Keefe, bringing back David Kampf. We're going to talk about the Auston Matthews and William Nylander contract situation. Free agency is right around the corner in a couple of days, so we have a lot to get into. But before we get into all that, it is officially time to welcome in my partner in crime, Mr. Michael Lepore. How you doing today, man?
Doing very well, Anthony Bruno. As always, absolutely ecstatic to be recording a podcast. For those of you watching on YouTube, wondering why I look a little different, the glasses are in the trash. Your boy Lepore had corrective eye surgery done. So now I can see. Now I can play hockey. Now I can drive a car without wearing glasses. It feels great. It just got to a point where I got just sick of people in the comments calling me Poindexter and Four Eyes. So I thought, you know what? Why not invest thousands and thousands of dollars into fixing my eyes?
You know what, Lepore? But you look so much more handsome now. So bravo, comment section.
Yeah, we'll see what people in the comments think about that.
Lepore, you always looked handsome because, you know, a lot of people say that Lepore looks like Clark Kent with his glasses on, which is a top-notch compliment.
Okay.
Lepore, you know you've gotten that. You've gotten that plenty of times.
I got that. I remember it was going around once. People were saying that I look like the guy from Schitt's Creek with my glasses. The Canadian actor. I don't remember his name, but people comment down below.
Wasn't it Dan Levy?
Is it Dan Levy? That sounds right. Yeah, I remember that going around. I had to laugh about that. But Clark Kent, Superman. I don't know. Who'd you rather be, Clark Kent or Bruce Wayne?
That's tough. I'm still going below. Clark Kent.
Okay, comment down below. I think I go Bruce Wayne. I'll take the cash.
So look what happens on social media. You bully Lepore in the comments section. Now he doesn't have glasses anymore. You bully me all the time. It's all right, though. We love the community that we have created on the GFP podcast. We love interacting with you guys. We love going back and forth. We love talking hockey. So keep it coming because we enjoy it. All right. Let's get right into this, Lepore, starting with the 2023 NHL Draft. As I mentioned, the Leafs selected London Knights forward Easton Cowan in the first round, 28th overall. And what's crazy is that this dude was projected to go in like the second or third round. He was the 51st ranked skater among North American skaters. So that's not even including European skaters. He was ranked 51st overall by NHL Central Scouting when it comes to North American skaters. So it was a shock that he went in the first round. I know the Toronto Maple Leafs invest a ton of money and a ton of resources into the draft and scouting and all that. So I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I want to trust them. They picked Matthew Knies in the second round. So who knows? Maybe this guy actually is a first round talent, but that's where there is a little bit of concern here, Lepore. Like if you could have got this guy in the second round, early in the third round even, I mean, maybe they could have traded down, but according to Leafs head scout Wes Clark, he said that he gathered intel and he had an idea that this kid was going to go higher than he was ranked. So
I saw that. That's
why I'm a little bit concerned. But again, I didn't even know who Easton Cowan was, to be honest with you, until the Leafs picked him. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some prospect guru. I'm not going to junior hockey rinks. I'm not watching all these 18-year-olds play. I know the elite guys in the draft: Connor Bedard, Adam Fantilli, Leo Carlson, Will Smith. I'm not following Easton Cowan and these other guys who are going in the mid to late first round. So again, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm some sort of expert, but I am a little bit concerned that this dude was ranked in like the 50s among North American skaters. So what are your thoughts on what the Leafs decided to do with the draft?
Well, first things first, I mean, Easton Cowan, what a name.
Great
what a
name.
Hockey name. I'm very excited about that. But here comes the Leafs fanboy comments, but I love the pick. And the reason why I love the pick contrary to the world of Twitter. And I think that, yeah, you mentioned where everyone had him. I think I saw one outlet had him like 35th. That was the highest, but like you said, it was in the 50s. Some people had him lower. But I love the pick because you mentioned the central scouting rankings. Those are going to be based on talent, like the intangibles, scoring, like what leagues these guys play in, what are their points, and it's pretty finite. But let's face it, in hockey, there are different types of players who are successful, and there are certain types of players that are really hard to assess. I say it all the time. The National Hockey League is the best league in the world. But in terms of actual quote unquote hockey players, and when I say that, I mean skill, talent, scores, it's not the best players in the world necessarily. There's guys playing in Europe who are far more hockey talented than guys who play in the National Hockey League. But those guys in the National Hockey League bring something that guy in Europe can't bring, whether it's killing penalties or being a piece of shit or punching somebody in the face, blocking shots, forechecking, things like that. So when you're picking that late, to me, if you're just going based on talent and you're picking the 28th guy on the board, the odds are super low that this guy ends up being anything in the National Hockey League, right? So why not take a shot at a player like Easton Cowan? And again, I don't follow him. I didn't know who he was before last night, but just reading all the write-ups since, everyone's like, he's feisty, he kills penalties, he's a piece of shit, and everyone's pointing to his numbers not being that good. Someone, I think it's for the point was January 1st, he was a point a game. He had a slow start to the season, and he was a point a game after that. He was a point a game in the playoffs. I read this write-up from someone who works for the London Knights, and they expect him to be on power play 1 next year and PK 1. So I love the pick. Take a shot. Take a shot at a guy who could be the third guy playing with 2 talented guys or a really good depth guy, because your odds of getting an actual legit top 6 forward or top 4D just based on like in the talent category are super low. So I love it. I love the pick. And I'll say it, all the stuff going around about how he was interviewed when he was 15 and he was at, what was the question? If you could have lunch with anyone, his answer was Mitch Marner. And then the pics are going around of him on the glass at a Leafs game with Marner. So awesome. And how about we get guys who actually want to play for us? Not like the guys who currently play for us, who seem like they don't want to play for us. So I love it, Bruno. I'm really happy with it.
And listening to Wes Clark, he talked the day before the draft, the Leafs head scout, director of scouting, whatever his official title is. He was asked by the media, what are the things that you look for, like the main things that you look for in prospects? Mm-hmm. And he said there's 2 things. Now, it's not just these 2 things, but these are 2 of the main things the Leafs look at, according to Wes Clark. He said intelligence and competitiveness.
Okay.
Those are the 2 things. And I think back to their pick last year, Fraser Minton. The big thing with him is like he was so smart, centerman, 200-foot player, competitive. So again, it seems like they keep drafting in this similar mold here. So I would like to believe that they thought Easton Cowan was very smart, very competitive. From what I've read, it's the same thing as you, Lepore. Like after you draft, after they make the pick, you're looking at his stats, you're researching things, you're trying to find out as much as you can about the player. You know, he's a feisty guy, he's quick, he's gonna get bigger and stronger. He was really good in the playoffs, and based on the experts, if you want to call them experts, I mean, I trust the people who are following these prospects and coming up with all these rankings on Sportsnet and TSN and The Athletic and things like that. They all kind of came to a consensus that he flew up the draft board based on how he played in the playoffs,
right? In
the OHL playoffs, as you said, where he was essentially a point per game player. So I'll give the Leafs the benefit of the doubt. All right. Like the millions of dollars that they invest in scouting and the draft. Think about this. They have an entire scouting department who works all year on this, and the Leafs made 3 draft picks. Yeah. 3 draft picks.
Yeah.
So it's pretty wild. Anyway, yeah, again, I'm a little bit concerned that he went that far above where he maybe should have gone. But if they had intel that someone was going to snatch him, I don't know, in the early 2nd round, and the Leafs figured, all right, we're not picking again until like the 5th or 6th round, let's just take the kid now. then it is what it is.
Was he not the player selected in the first round who had the greatest gap to where Central Scouting had him? I think he was.
I believe he was.
I think I saw that. But again, I like it because what does that mean? Here you have a team that's got a new general manager, okay, a guy who's got to win, and the scouting staff put their neck on the line. And Treliving said, I let these guys do their thing. I'm new here. They've been doing this for months. I'll let them do it. So they put their neck on the line, and that I'm happy about that, because while they have to be pretty fucking confident and really secure with the pick to move forward with it, they just didn't go safe, right? As a lot of teams do. But I like it. I like the kid. He said the right things. He's a Leafs fan. He plays for Hunter with the London Knights. So make of that what you wish. Someone actually even posted, it was a list of London Knights players who, not necessarily where they were drafted, but where they were ranked before the draft. And there was like 6 NHLers. The guys like in the 30s, 40s, 50s who like were chosen a little early or around, really earlier than expected or around there, and ended up being good NHL players. And if that means anything or it's just a coincidence, I don't know, but maybe it gives you one more reason to feel a little more comfortable with it.
And the Leafs have a pretty good track record of drafting London Knights in the first round. I have a list in front of me right here.
Of course you do. Of course you do.
Daryl Sittler, 8th overall in 1970.
Oh, fuck, yeah.
Nazem Kadri, 7th overall in 2009. Then, of course, Mitchell Marner, 4th overall in 2015. And now Easton Cowan, 28th overall in 2023. So pretty good track record there, London Knights.
So what'd you list off? You list maybe the greatest Leaf ever. Kadri, who's a solid NHL player, had a great career, won a cup, makes a lot of money, and a back-to-back first-team All-Star. So no pressure on Easton Cowan coming from Leafland, right?
So he's guaranteed to be an All-Star,
100%.
Guaranteed to be a 100-point player in the NHL. I mean, it's just an absolute lock.
Oh, I think
absolute lock.
Him or Bedard, who's having the better career?
Oh, Easton Cowan. It's not even close.
Yeah, I mean, probably.
It's time for a quick break for a word about MANSCAPED. If you haven't already heard, it's smooth sack summer. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're scaped from pubes to bum. The leaders in below the waist grooming are making sure we all have a ball this summer by giving our balls everything they need to stay fresh. Dive headfirst into smooth sack summer by going to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using our exclusive promo code GFP20. Lepore, you got to be prepared for smooth sack summer, man.
You got it, man. Summer, guys, it's hot. It's sticky. We have to take care of ourselves. So what are we going to do? We're going to pull out some crop mops from Manscaped, clean the boys up and down, left and right. But when you do buy the crop mops, don't forget to use the promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com.
You know what to do, gentlemen. Get that Lawnmower 4.0 and then make sure you're clean from head to toe, but especially in the region that we're talking about. All right, keep those boys nice and fresh, and you're going to have yourself one hell of a summer. So once again, go to manscaped.com for 20% off and free shipping using the promo code GFP20. That is promo code GFP20 for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Well, speaking of Connor Bedard, let's talk about the rest of the draft. And
sure,
maybe let's start with what we think Connor Bedard is going to be, because that seems to be the big question. I feel like throughout the whole year, I was asked so many times, Lepore, like, how good is Connor Bedard? Like, is he as good as McDavid and like Crosby and you know, all these other like slam dunk first overall generational players like Auston Matthews? And again, like, I'm not going to pretend that I'm some scouting guru and I'm going all these junior hockey rinks around the country. But I am of the belief, based on what I have watched, seeing this guy at the World Juniors, you know, watching highlights of him on the Regina Pats, just looking at his numbers, I would be stunned, Lepore, if this guy is not a point per game player in year one. And maybe that sounds a little aggressive, but you go down the list, man, like Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Auston Matthews wasn't quite a point per game in his rookie year, but he scored 40 goals.
Yeah.
Like, I think Connor Bedard is going to be a point per game player in year one as the Blackhawks #1 center.
Yeah. A point per game. It sounds so crazy, but I think that has to be the expectation. And people are like, oh, you know, he's a rookie and this and that, and he's going to be playing for a bad team. this is the most hyped player since Connor McDavid. This guy's dominated every age group he's been in until now. The expectation is a point a game. The thing is, he's such an amazing shot. Like everyone else keeps talking about his shot, his release, just incredible. What's your over-under for goals? I think that's where it gets interesting. I mean, points, like he's going to be on PP1. He's going to be loading up points. But I don't know. Like if you said right now, you said Matthews clipped 40. Would you say Bedard gets 40?
That's tough. Like
That's
Auston
tough.
Matthews, as much as people make fun of us and they call us Leaf homers, like he's been the best goal scorer in the world since the minute he stepped into the NHL. I don't think Bedard is going to score 40. Like if I set the over under Lepore at 33.5 goals next season for Connor Bedard, would you go over or under?
I'd go over because I think it's more likely that he's like mid to late 30s than like he's in the 20s.
Okay. Maybe I got to move the line then to like 35.5.
Yeah, I'd say like 34.5, 35.5. We can look it up. I'm sure it's already posted somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be up on some book.
Yeah, and of course there's injuries, whatever. We have to like look at what the projection is over 82 games. But I don't know. He's got his boy Taylor Hall helping him out, apparently. Poor Taylor Hall, eh?
From Boston to Chicago. My God.
Unbelievable. Did you see that list of how many times he's been on the team that had the first overall pick?
Yeah, it's like wild.
It's like 8 times or 7 times in his career. Bad teams. And here's this guy. Okay? Bounced around all these shit teams, okay? He's like, you know what? And Bobby Orr is his agent, so I'm sure he has something to do with it. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go to Boston. And I'm going to sign for a reasonable amount, give them reasonable term because I've been losing my entire life and I want to go win. Well, they get bounced in the first round and he gets shipped out of Boston after the first year. So poor Taylor Hall, man. Just what a weird career. Do you think someone brought up to me that the deal could have been done and he'll be traded again? Can you see that happening?
For him to get traded again?
Yeah, like Chicago
like before the end of the season?
Yeah,
potentially.
Or even now before the season starts.
Well, they should trade him, especially at the deadline. Like, I don't know why they would want to keep him. Obviously, it was a cap dump by the Boston Bruins, and it's happening all around the league. Like, Tampa had to do the same thing, trading Ross Colton, and the Leafs have done it in the past. Not that the Leafs have traded guys. Like, obviously, they let Zach Hyman walk in free agency. Now Michael Bunting is most likely going to walk. There's a lot of teams that are suffering cap casualties. I think Chicago would be crazy not to trade him for some assets. They're obviously going to be rebuilding. It's not like they're going to make the playoffs. As good as Bedard is, they're not doing anything in year one. So I agree. Like, I think Hall's going to get traded again.
Yeah. Corey Perry,
he's another guy. Like, why would they keep him?
Yeah,
why
I guess
would
he
they
doesn't
keep
have to
him on
sign
the roster past the trade deadline?
because he's still a free agent, I guess. So he doesn't have to sign in theory. They just traded for his rights. But if they do figure something out, but that's a deadline. That's a nice deadline addition for anyone. Please, God, can the hockey god just make me happy and Corey Perry wear a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey once, just once?
I know, man. You've been calling it now for the last 2 to 3 seasons.
Oh my God, man! Since we signed Simmons, I've been begging for Corey Perry,
and he's still so good in the playoffs. Like the guy's 38. He's so far past his prime. He's playing on the 4th line. He's playing like 7 minutes a night, and he's still so effective.
Yeah,
it's insane. It's like the playoffs start, and he just flips a switch and turns into like Corey Perry from like 2010.
He wants another cup so bad.
He does.
He does. Yeah.
He's coming to the Leafs. He's coming to the Leafs, everybody.
That's where he's gonna get it.
Anyway, anything else from the draft that intrigued you? I mean, we could move on if you just wanted to talk about Connor Bedard, but
in terms of intriguing, I mean, everyone said it was a really good draft. It's funny because with the second pick, everyone was like Fantilli, and I think maybe that's our Canadian bias coming in. But then you look up Carlson, and here's this center who's like 6'3", can score. There's a thing in me. I'm like, Carlson's gonna go 2. It's gonna shock everyone. He's gonna go 2, and he did. I don't know. I mean, we can talk about the Montreal pick. First things first, how Carey Price couldn't spit it out. Hilarious.
That was embarrassing.
Oh my God. You know what? It didn't really get talked about. I felt bad for the kid. Like, that's your moment.
100%. That you've been waiting for that moment your entire life. Carey Price, Hall of Fame goalie, comes up to announce the pick and forgets your name. What a disaster.
It could happen. It could happen to anyone. To be fair, the kid's got, I'd say like a different last name, but it's got a European last name. So that would be more likely to happen, I would think. But Canadiens fans, oh man, they were flipping out at that pick. They were flipping out. Like, people are not happy with Hughes right now. But what's funny is, from what I saw, anyway, I don't know what you saw, and Canadiens fans, comment down below, they wanted Michkov really bad. That was the guy they really wanted. But then he dropped to 7th, where Philadelphia got him. And with him, and clarify this for me, Bruno, people are saying he could be the second most talented player in the draft, but he went to 7. And did I hear this right? It's because he has to play. He's signed for the next year or two in Russia still.
Yeah. What's wild is that he is under contract in the KHL until, I believe, 25, 26.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's what's scaring everybody off. There was one guy, and again, I don't know how trustworthy this source is. I already forgot the guy's name, but I saw him on Twitter. He's like one of the Twitter like draft guys who had his rankings and everything. He had Michkov ranked as his number 1 player.
I think I saw that.
Like,
yeah,
this dude had him above Bedard.
Yeah, I saw
like
that.
Apparently, like, this guy, I don't want to say he's like Ovechkin, but people are very high on him. And the only reason that he fell was because of the fear that he was going to stay in Russia and the uncertainty, and he was only going to go to the team that he wanted to go to. Like, there were rumors, Elliot Friedman was tweeting about this when the Flyers like shut down their facility one day. And now the theory is that they shut down their entire facility because they were hosting Michkov in like some private meeting. And that's where, when he disclosed to them that he wanted to come to Philadelphia, pretty crazy stuff.
Was that during COVID, they said?
I'm not exactly sure when I think it happened recently.
Oh, okay.
That they like shut down their facility and they were having some private meeting with Michkov. Don't hold me to it, guys. Like, I'm scanning through this on Twitter, and I believe Elliot Friedman was the one who was tweeting about this. But yeah, like, there are some people who think that, I don't really think anyone, maybe there's like 1 or 2 people that actually had him above Bedard. Like, I mean, I think you'd be pretty crazy to be like, to plant your flag and say this guy's better than Connor Bedard, but he was considered like a top 3 to 5 player for sure.
Yeah. We're going to see. I mean, it'll be exciting to see how it plays out and to see which Canadiens fans are right about it and wrong about it. But I don't know, man, people were not happy because I think the big thing was, as far as we are now, they're obviously not happy with the Slafkovsky pick, and we don't know where that's going to, what that's going to look like 4 or 5 years from now. And now they got this pick, and there was different guys they wanted. And let's face it, we're in a cap league. Guys don't move like they used to. In today's NHL, you need to be bad and draft well when you're bad to be successful. Look around the league, and it sucks. It's horseshit, in my opinion, but that's the only way you can do it. So you have to hit home runs with these picks. And that's why Canadiens fans are a little nervous right now. Comment down below, everyone. And if you're happy with the pick, let us know why, and blast all your compadres on Twitter about it, because everything that I saw was Montreal was not at all happy with that pick. I think part of it was because he's a defenseman. They're like, we're loaded on D. Why do we need that? And they just took the best player on the board. And that's a take. I mean, you take the best player available, or you take your need. I mean, you hear that talk every year. But again, it'll be awesome to see how it plays out. Even the Fantilli versus Carlson thing, that'll be cool.
That's going to be good to track over the next
100%.
like 3 to 5 years.
100%.
You know what that reminded me of? When the Panthers took Barkov at 2. Remember, that was the year that Seth Jones, and I don't think Seth Jones was going to go number 1 over Nathan McKinnon, but he was like almost a slam dunk to go like 2nd overall, even 3rd overall. And he ended up slipping down to 4 because the Panthers out of nowhere took Barkov at 2. So it kind of reminds me of that. Like,
good pick.
All right, maybe the Ducks really know what they're doing here with Leo Carlson, but we shall see.
Yeah, nice.
And sometimes when you have 2 top 5 picks, you get Matthews and Marner, McDavid and Draisaitl, Crosby and Malkin. And other times you get Uri Slafkovsky and David Reinbacher. So congrats to the Montreal Canadiens. Job well done.
Were you saying, Bruno, about everybody hating you? Were you saying why again? We're trying to figure out why.
I might be the most hated hockey social media personality in North America.
Yeah, it's like you or Kipper, like head to head, Anthony Bruno versus Kipper.
I don't think I'm that hated.
Yeah.
But man, oh man, I mean, going to my Twitter account, my YouTube account, some people are just like, the vitriol that is just sent my way, man, is just crazy from time to time. Guys, I'm just here to talk hockey and have fun.
It's a compliment, Bruno. Stay relevant, man. If they're trashing you, you're relevant. If no one cared, nobody cared, there'd be no comments at all. So
that's a good point, Lepore. But I love it. Bring it on. If you want to chirp me, if you want to chirp us, I mean, we love to go at it in the comment section. So we're always here to debate hockey. We're not ever going to shy away from that. All right, Lepore. Let's talk about Sheldon Keefe.
Let's talk about Sheldon Keefe.
So the Leafs appear to be running it back. Now, there's still some dominoes that need to fall, but everyone's coming back, it looks like. And Sheldon Keefe, he's been a really good coach. He has not coached in the league a long time, but Brad Treliving spoke, and he said that there was strong belief on both sides. From him in Sheldon Keefe's ability, and also in the players believing in Sheldon Keefe. And what he also mentioned is that Sheldon Keefe has strong belief in the players. And I think he's alluding to the core, which also means that they're probably all coming back. Matthews and Nylander, even though they haven't officially signed extensions yet. But Brad Treliving said that he spent like 17 hours over 4 days talking with Sheldon Keefe. First, it was getting to know him and building a relationship. Then it was getting into the X's and O's and figuring out how he likes to coach, because Treliving mentioned that him and Keefe had no relationship prior to him joining the Leafs.
Yeah, why would
and Treliving said, like, you know, usually in the NHL, like, you come across somebody at some point. Sure. You even have like a small relationship with them. But he said him and Sheldon Keefe, zero relationship. So they had to start from scratch. But anyway, they came to the conclusion that he was the best guy to coach this team. Now, before I throw it over to you, Lepore, there's a couple stats I got to bring your way about Sheldon Keefe. All right, because I know some people are pissed off and they didn't want to see him back. All right, so just listen to this for a second.
Here they come.
Since Sheldon Keefe took over the Leafs head coaching job in November of 2019, the Leafs have the fourth best record in the NHL. Only the Bruins, Avalanche, and Hurricanes have a better record. During that span, the Leafs are second in the NHL in goals per game, 11th in goals against per game, second in power play percentage, 9th in penalty kill percentage. And here's another random stat, but you know, I know it's not the be all and end all. It does speak to how they've improved defensively. 8th in the NHL in shots against per game. I know it's a basic stat, but it just goes to show, like,
no, it's a big stat.
Offensively and defensively under Sheldon Keefe over the last 4 years, this team has been pretty darn good. The only area they have not excelled in is their playoff success, where Sheldon Keefe is 13-17 in 30 playoff games with one playoff series win. So what are your thoughts on the Leafs bringing back Sheldon Keefe?
I like Sheldon Keefe. I think when you're talking about coaches in general, we can discuss who the Leafs could bring in or which coach is better than what other coach. But to me, all that really matters at that level, because I have a hard time believing that one coach is just crazy superior to another coach in terms of X's and O's. I really have a hard time with that, because these are the top jobs in the world. Where the gap is different, I think, is how these guys approach their relationships with the players and the culture they build. So as weird as it sounds, and maybe as brutal as it sounds, depending on how you look at it, all that really matters is what the players think about the coach. If you have a team of guys who are, if it's a competitive team and they all like the coach and they don't want him going anywhere, he's the coach. Now, I mean, there's obviously exceptions. Like, at some point you do have to make a splash, or if you're losing, you really have to do something. But in the case here, we have a team that in the last 2 seasons had 111 and 115 points. And if the players like him, he's going to stay. And Treliving would have found out if significant guys wanted him gone. I'm sure he would have either spoke to Riley directly, or his agent. Same goes for Matthews, Tavares, all these guys, Marner. Come on. I mean, he would know if the players wanted him out. And then there is the side of Treliving where, why would he not keep him? He knows this guy is a good coach. He knows he wins in the regular season with this guy. He should get them into the playoffs comfortably. You only get so many bullets as a GM with your head coach. why not just ride this out? And let's say the Leafs do what they always do in the playoffs next year. He can say, well, he wasn't my coach. Now I get to pick mine. And with that too, he buys himself time to see who's available. And maybe they did evaluate that. Like, no one's really available that we'd like. We'll see what happens a year from now. We have a good team with a coach who's liked by the players. Let's roll. So maybe that's not the explanation or answer people wanted to hear. Am I happy about it? I'm not upset about it. I'm not happy about it. I think for the first time in a long time, and this falls in a few categories as far as the Leafs go, there's going to be some apathy because it looks like everything's going to be exactly the same. And we've joked before about Leafs fans just waiting for the playoffs. Like, now we're really waiting for the playoffs, like really and truly just waiting for the playoffs. It's not even, oh, there was a new coach to light a fire under the team's ass, so let's see what happens. No, now it's exactly the same. So I don't hate it. I don't love it, but I think that was kind of the goal of Treliving with it. So I guess that's my take.
Oh, that's a great point, Lepore. And we talked about this on our last podcast. It's the whole idea that it does buy time for Brad Treliving. He has a bullet in the chamber. Whereas you said, why burn that right away when Sheldon Keefe has proven that, since he's been here, the Leafs have essentially been like a 110-point team.
Yeah.
Like I said, they've been the fourth best regular season team in the NHL since he took over. So unless Auston Matthews over the next couple of days tells the Leafs that he's not re-signing and they have to trade him and then they blow this whole thing up, guess what? The Leafs are probably going to have between 108 and 112 points next season. They're probably going to finish top 2 in the Atlantic Division as they usually do, and they're going to roll into the playoffs and probably play Tampa or Florida in the first round. Like, we all know where this is going, which on one side is actually kind of scary and kind of sad to a certain degree because we kind of know what's going to happen. There's nothing to kind of rally behind here. There's nothing to get excited about. As you said, it is what it is at this point. And it's kind of crazy because we've all kind of become numb to the regular season greatness of this team. I know that sounds a little disgusting saying it like that. We're all numb to the regular season greatness, but I mean, those are the facts. I mean, this team has been one of the best regular season teams, not even in the Sheldon Keefe era, even going back to the Babcock era. And they just can't get it done in the playoffs. And I think Brendan Shanahan looks at this and says, this team's successful. They win. They have players that people like Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner. These guys are two of the most popular players in the world. They get to the playoffs every year. MLSE makes a lot of money. My job is secure. And I know it's kind of scary to think about it like that, but Brendan Shanahan could be viewing it from that same lens and being like, let's just run this back. And then maybe things bounce our way in the playoffs and, maybe they get to a conference final or a Stanley Cup final next year, and who knows, right? But as of now, Lepore, I mean, it just looks like the entire band is on its way back.
Yeah, it's hard, man. It's so easy for us. When I say us, I mean fans. Oh, they need to change this, change that. Think of if you're Treliving right now, okay? You're going into this situation, and let's face it, I think a lot of people are forgetting that Nylander and Matthews still have a year left on their deals. So even if nothing happens, we still get this year with them under their current deals. So here you have Treliving, okay? You inherited a team that has done what they've done in the regular season. And I don't think it's a hot take to say that I don't think Boston's going to be the same next year. So
Bergeron and Krejci might retire.
Well, they're saying they're expected the way Sweeney said, the way they're approaching the situations that they're not coming back. Correct. So I don't think it's a hot take to say that. I'm not saying this is my opinion, but I'm sure the take exists that the Leafs are the favorite to win the division. So if you're a GM coming in and you have this team, you have these guys for now, they could very well win the division. They like their coach. I'm not going to make any changes. Like, think of if he did make a change and it went the other way. Like, think if he got rid of Keefe, or everyone's like, oh, trade Nylander. He trades Nylander and he ends up like in a wild card spot or something. Brutal. That's a bad look. And everyone will be pointing to what? Oh, look where Dubas had this team. Now in 1 year, look where Treliving has his team. So he's had a team that's knocked 110 points plus the last 2 years. Guys who were fun to watch. They score. A coach that's liked. They're pretty well locked into a playoff spot, barring injuries or just crazy stuff happening. He's not going to make changes. And as I'm saying this, I'm thinking more, this isn't even necessarily a hockey take. This is just like a business take. Why would he make those changes? And again, even if the same thing happens, if they win the division and go out in the first round in 4 straight games, it's still his first year as GM. Then, Kate, now we make changes. Like, he's not going to get let go after 1 year, even if they do get something like that happens, right? So if I'm being perfectly honest, I didn't expect anything really and truly to happen unless a player wanted his way out.
And think about how unique of a situation this actually is, because when do you fire your head coach and GM? Typically after you've had a horrible season and things have not been going your way and you need to shake things up and you miss the playoffs, or maybe you were one of the worst teams in the NHL and nothing's going right. The Leafs were a 110-point team, made it to the second round of the playoffs, lost to the Stanley Cup runner-up Florida Panthers. It's very rare that the GM gets fired. Yeah. And it seemed for, a long time that Sheldon Keefe was probably going to get fired too, because him and Dubas were attached at the hip. And listen, Lepore, unless the Leafs win the cup next year, it's probably going to get to the point where Treliving just says, all right, this has run its course. I'm going to go get my own guy now. And it's like you said, it just buys him time. It buys him a year. He doesn't have to do anything drastic. And then if things still don't go well a year from now, then Brad Treliving can put his official stamp on the team and get a new coach and trade one of the big four potentially. There's a lot of different things that he could do. But as of now, it just looks like they're going to run it back with the same players. And for example, with David Kampf, he's back on a 4-year deal, $2.4 million a season. There were some people on Twitter who were very upset about the signing. And listen, I do think it's a little bit of an overpay, but it's over 4 years. And you look at the centers on the market in free agency right now, it's not great. I think it was just more of it was more that the Leafs just felt comfortable with him. So instead of going out into free agency and maybe overpaying somebody else or getting someone who's not quite as good, they figured, we know David Kampf. He's good in all situations. He's a 200-foot player. The coach really trusts him. There's a comfort level here. Let's just lock the guy up, even though it's probably $500K more than we should be giving him. Let's just lock it up. And again, it just goes back to the whole idea here that, like I said, the entire team they're just running it back. Looks with almost the same. It's not going to be the same roster because there's a lot of free agents and there's going to be some turnover, but they're running it back.
Yeah, I think that was subconsciously part of the reaction of Leafs fans. It was just more frustration out of, okay, again, rather than the actual contract. So there's a few things to this one. There's that. There's the boredom issue. The second thing is, okay, let's talk about this for a second. Everyone who listens to this show knows that I fucking hate the salary cap. I do not think the NHL should have a hard cap. Here we are debating, arguing, freaking out because David Kampf signed for $2.5 million. And no one's saying, oh, he's league min. I'm seeing all these people oh, this is a terrible deal. My projections have him at 1.9. For $500,000, we're slamming our computers and our phones because we're that upset.
I know, it's pathetic, honestly.
It's so stupid. Give me a break.
And it's the NHL, Lepore. It's so sad that the NHL is in this spot that you are penalized for being a good team, for drafting and developing players or acquiring under the radar players and then seeing them blossom. You get penalized for that because no one has cap space. It's so fucking pathetic. When you sit back and you compare it to the other leagues, the other major North American sports leagues, it's just so sad that the good teams get penalized for having too many good players. And I'm not saying that, that David Kampf is some, again, obviously the Leafs are bringing him back. He wasn't a cap casualty, but it's like you said, we are getting angry that the Leafs gave David Kampf maybe $500K more than his market value. It's insane.
Total joke. Now, not to get into the total cap conversation, and I apologize if I've gone on this rant or previously on the show, but let's take a step back and look at this for a second. So here you have Auston Matthews negotiating his contract. Okay, people are going to get mad, but this guy's a top 5 player in the league, back-to-back Maurice Rocker-Richard trophy winner. This guy's got a Hart trophy. Okay, he could sign a deal there's a scenario where he could sign a deal and the fans of his team be upset because they don't think the value is good. Imagine we were sitting here and like Allen or Mahomes signed a contract and fans of whatever NFL team were like, wow, we don't want him because it's not good value.
Like,
no,
we'll
they want
take
the
Mahomes
best
at 40 million, but not at 42.5 million.
Exactly. So frustrating, man. Oh, I hate the cap with a passion. But as far as camp goes, someone posted this and I had no idea about this. Okay, so league wide last year, David Kampf ranked 33rd in faceoffs taken and 31st in faceoffs won. He ranked ahead of Auston Matthews in both categories. He was 21st amongst NHL centers in takeaways and 12th in takeaways per 60. So that's why they got him.
Good player.
It's those things. He's a nice player. I think, and again, too, it's the lack of offense. He's boring. People don't see him light it up. He had long stretches last year without putting up any goals. And people made the point, it's like, well, either you're paying your fourth line center $2.5 million, or David Kampf's your third line center, and ouch. Right. And I understand that take, and I understand the frustration. But I think the things pushing this frustration the most are the boredom of it and the how the cap is ridiculous, and we shouldn't even be talking about this in the first place.
Yeah, it's so sad when this deal goes down and your entire Twitter timeline is talking about how David Kampf was overpaid, like I said, by like $500,000. It's like we shouldn't even be talking about this. This should just be, a piece of news that breaks. We're all like, oh, nice, David Kampf is coming back, and we all forget about it. Instead, it turns into this big story. Oh my God, how could Brad Treliving throw away his cap space like this? What an egregious move. They could have replaced Kampf for someone making like 1.5 or 1.2. And if Kyle Dubas was here, he would have found some under the radar hidden gem who makes $900,000, which may have been the case because
I was going to say
really good at that.
I was going to say, I think we got used to that. We got a little too comfortable with that. So yeah, it's not the reality every year.
But it's just so sad how we're harping on this. It's sad that we're even talking about this, honestly. It's really, really sad. And it's going to be the same thing with the Matthews and Nylander situation. Like, God forbid the Leafs sign William Nylander to like 1.3 million more than maybe he deserves or we all think he's going to get. Then everyone's going to be up in arms. It's the same thing with Auston Matthews. God forbid he gets 13.4 million instead of 12.9 million. It's insane, man. Like, what are your thoughts on that situation? Because these are the two big dominoes that still need to fall here. And then everything will probably become a lot clearer here in terms of how the Leafs are going to fill out their roster once they figure out the extensions for Matthews and Nylander. But do you think there's any concern? Listen, I don't think there's any concern about Matthews. Like, I think they're going to get that extension done. The one that's starting to worry me a bit, Lepore, is this Nylander situation. Are you concerned at all with either of these guys?
Of course, everyone knows Treliving wants them signed. My thinking about this, like, you say you use the scope to look at this entire thing. Okay, the argument that David Kampf was overpaid. Okay, let's say you get that guy for $2 million instead of the 2.4. That $400,000 could cost you Nylander or Matthews if you want them. So I'd like to think and hope and pray, for that matter, that they already kind of know what these guys are getting and it's already pretty well locked up. So that's my first side of it. Pushing forward with it, I think the Nylander one is, and comment down below what you think if you disagree. I think it's pretty easy to predict because here you had Dubois and Meyer sign their deals, and it's got to be similar-ish. It can't be like people are saying, oh, he wants over 10. It's like, no, come on. Like, I know he had an amazing year, but what's the comparable there? Right, of like wingers who make over 10 million. That's tough, Willie. And again, like, let's be reasonable. Timo Meier just signed for 8.8. Okay, I mean, some people think Dubois is overpaid. I mean, that's what he got. So like, I think it's going to be in that realm. With Matthews, it's broad, man. It's broad. Some people are saying 3 years. Some people, I've heard 6, and then with the amount of it, everything between 13 and 15. So that one I have no idea, absolutely no clue what that one could be. But again, I just with the camp signing and with all the places they have to fill in this lineup, I'd like to think those deals, whatever they are pretty well done, because it's like, well, we have to take care of that no matter what. Like, let's say they want Nylander for 9 and it's 9.4 to get it done. They wouldn't have signed Kampf and they would have found a $2 million replacement. We'll deal with that when we need to. Right.
Yeah. I would like to think that both guys are coming back. And I know there are a lot of Leaf fans who want to see some shakeup here, who want to see one of the core four dealt, who want to see something different, because there's a big contingent of the fan base that is going to be extremely annoyed if they run this back, which it appears they're going to do. And it was the same thing last year, right? The Leafs ran it back after they lost in 7 to Tampa. And, people weren't necessarily drawn in at the start of the year, more of the casual fans. But as the year goes on and you get closer to the playoffs and you get sucked back in, and then you're watching them lose in the playoffs again. So I know there's a lot of fans who are going to be upset, but I think they're going to re-sign both guys. And I think both guys are probably going to get overpaid slightly. It is what it is. Like, even comparing Nylander to Timo Meier, who signed for $8.8 million over 8 years with the Devils. Like, I'm just going through Timo Meier's, his seasons. He scored 40 goals last season, and that was his first 40-goal season in the NHL. And, it's just like William Nylander. Yeah. They've both scored 40 goals once in their career. Timo Meier, 330 points in 472 games. I believe Nylander has a better points per game mark than Timo Meier does. So they are pretty similar players, honestly. Like, I'm looking at Nylander's stats right now. Nylander, 430 points in 521 career games. So he has scored at a slightly better clip than Timo Meier over his career. Nylander coming off back-to-back 80-point seasons. Like, he's going to get what he deserves. Like, to the people who think Nylander doesn't deserve, like, $8.59 million, I don't know what you've been watching. And even look what he's done in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. I think everyone would take him at $8.5 million, though, Bruno. You think Leafs fans would argue against $8.5 million?
No, I think Leaf fans would probably accept $8.5 million. I think if it gets to like $9.5 million.
Oh, yeah, that's the number. How we said the over-under on like Bedard goals. I think like not 9 is the over-under on like how fans are going to react to this.
I think he's asking for something in the 9s. Like, if I just had to guess.
Of course he is. Of course he is.
He's got to be asking for something in the 9s. And again, like, even just doing this basic exercise, comparing him to Timo Meier, and both of them were top 10 picks in the draft, similar career numbers, both have scored 40 goals once in their career. So you got to think now, like, the baseline is $8.8 million. And don't forget, like, William Nylander, when he was 21 years old, was the MVP for Sweden at the World Championships. Not the World Juniors, the World Championships. Like, William Nylander's a damn good player and has been a damn good player for a while now, even though your uncle might disagree with that. So it's going to start at 8.8, and Leaf fans are going to be pissed. He's probably going to sign for like 9.2 million, and people are going to be like, oh my God, the Leafs overpaid Nylander. Then Matthews is going to sign for like 13 point something. The thing that's going to piss me off, Lepore, and we talked about this on the last show, is if Matthews signs like a 3-year deal.
No, we're not doing it. I'm
going to be pissed off.
I will be furious with my favorite hockey team if he signs a 3-year deal. That's it. And I can't say the only thing, but it would have to be at a number that he's not going to sign for. So, like, not a raise. Like, so that's not going to happen. So no, like that's embarrassing. That would legitimately and truly be embarrassing if he signed a 3-year deal.
I'd be so angry. Like, ideally, we all want Matthews to sign an 8-year contract, just like every other star player in the league has done. But like, what do you think the chances are that he signs an 8-year deal for like $12.7 million just to surpass Nathan MacKinnon, who beat out Connor McDavid's average annual salary by 100,000? Like, is there any chance Matthews is just like, all right, I'm going to take an 8-year deal for 12.7. I'm going to temporarily be the highest paid player in the league. You think there's zero chance?
I think there's zero chance. I hate to say it. I wish, but it's not going to be that long, and it's going to start with a 13.
God.
Is what I think. I'm saying it's going to be 4 or 5 years at like 13 and a half. Is going to be my guess.
If it's 5 years, I can stomach. And again, we talked about this on the last show. Go check it out because we had like a long conversation about this. I'd be okay with a 5-year deal for Matthews.
Me too.
But good Lord, Lepore, if he signs a 3-year deal for like 13.5 million.
Oh, fuck. No.
Like, what are we doing here? You're the only elite player who's doing this. You're the only elite player who thinks they're LeBron James. And again, like Auston Matthews is a top 5 player in the league. But he's trying to sign like an NBA contract where these guys sign like these 2 to 3 year deals, LeBron James and Kevin Durant, then they re-up and they make a ton of money. And it makes sense from an economic perspective and a financial perspective when you think about Matthews and how he can maximize his earnings. But good Lord, man, when every other star player in the league is signing long-term extensions, 8-year deals at manageable numbers, and then this dude wants to come in and sign a 3-year deal for 13 and a half, 14 million. Like, get the fuck out of here, man. That's gonna piss off a lot of people if that's what happens.
Yeah. Someone even made the take, and I'd love to be a fly on the wall for these discussions. Okay, let's say he did sign 8 years at the 12.75 or something. Okay, Auston, you're making less money over those 8 years. Okay. But July 1, we turn on the TV, or we turn on the TV. I sound like a dinosaur. We get the alert on our phone that Matthew signed 8 times 12.75. Okay. He is a hero.
Oh,
in the city of Toronto,
in Leafs Nation.
He would be the most loved figure in the city. With that comes benefits. More endorsements, more jersey sales, all that stuff, better marketing, like everything. And I'm waiting for a Boston Pizza commercial with a few of the Leafs. So those who don't, like, Treliving's dad owns the Boston Pizza franchise. So even like later, like when the player writes a book, and everyone get ready to laugh if they win a cup. Oh my God. Like the money that would just pour in for these guys. So like, I'd love to hear those discussions of, okay, Auston, you signed that deal. You're making it harder for the team to win, and people aren't going to like you. You signed this deal. Yeah, it's less money, but there's a potential to make even more because we're going to be a better team if you're making less money, and you'll be more loved by the fan base.
Like, Lepore, do you think him and Marner ever think about that, what you just laid out? Because it's a really good point. Like, do you think they've taken even 5 minutes to sit back and think about how great they would look if they signed team-friendly contracts? And again, we're not saying they have to take like massive discounts, but it's just like sign the contracts that all the other elite players around the league are signing, for the love of God.
Yeah. I don't know. Because I always make the point that people are different. Some people play because they want to win. Some people play for the paycheck. Some people like the geography of a certain team. So everyone's different. I just think I won't even say today's hockey player, today's athlete, it's just all about them. Their take is, well, people are going to love me anyway. I'm going to make the most money possible, and I'm going to get the most endorsements anyway, and I can bring this team to a championship because I'm the man. And it's lame, but I think that's what goes through their heads. And their agents are probably pumping them with that. So, everyone loves you, and you can make all the money. Do it, Mitch. Of course. I mean, it sucks. And sports has changed since when we were kids, and now I really do sound like a dinosaur. But I'd like to think now more than ever, what we're talking about is barely talked about at all. Really and truly, barely talked about at all. And as fans, we're always going to ask that question because we can't relate, because we're not professional athletes making millions of dollars. But Tyler Bertuzzi will be testing free agency, according to Elliot Friedman.
Yeah, I literally just got the same alert.
Yeah, that's something. Phone. Yeah, that's something. But yeah, I just think in today's world, you do not have that actual care for the logo on the front of the jersey. And that's not just Leafs players. I think it's across the board. So it sucks, but it's the reality of it. And it seems like the Toronto Maple Leaf star players are at the forefront of it. So buckle up, everybody. It's going to be fun.
I have a pretty good feeling that when Connor McDavid becomes a free agent, or even before he becomes a free agent and he's eligible to sign his extension, I feel pretty good. And I know everyone wants to see him come play for the Leafs. No matter who he ends up playing for, I feel pretty good that he's going to sign an 8-year deal.
100%.
For whatever the highest salary at that time will be, and it's probably going to eclipse Matthews. I can't see McDavid being like, no, I'm only going to sign a 3-year deal, then I'm going to re-up when the cap goes up. Like, he's going to sign an 8-year deal because Connor McDavid strikes me, and maybe you disagree, like, he strikes me as someone who wants to win so badly.
Yeah, especially if he doesn't win.
3 Hart trophies. He's won a Rocket Richard now when people didn't put him in the same class as the top goal scorers in the world, and he shut up everybody this year, scoring 60 plus. Like, he's won everything, every award you can possibly think of besides, like, all right, the Selke Award, okay? But, like, this guy wants to win a cup. I guarantee you, I maybe guarantee is a little aggressive, but I have a very strong feeling he's going to sign an 8-year extension.
Think of it this way, Bruno. What's the max? It's never happened, but the max is 20% that a player can sign for. Let's say when he becomes a free agent, the cap's 90 million. Okay. So that would be 18 million. Connor McDavid would deserve that. 100% Connor McDavid would deserve that. And he could go to the table and demand it. And to be honest, if he hit free agency, somebody would give it to him. He's not going to do that. Because especially if he doesn't win in Edmonton the next couple of years, whether he re-signs with Edmonton or goes somewhere else, he's going to be desperate to win. So, like, let's cry about it. Why can't our guys feel this way?
And in order to win,
like
I think Connor McDavid understands that you need to be able to build a team around him, and you need to leave some money on the table. I know it kind of sucks, and the cap sucks, and I agree with you, Lepore, but that's the reality of the situation. You have to leave money on the table in a league like the NHL if you're a star player, if you seriously want to build a winning team around you. Like, it's just the reality of the situation. But is there anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap up this podcast?
I don't know. I think we did a pretty good job of talking about future slam dunk Hall of Famer Easton Cowan. So, I mean, I'm good. Good to the next one, at least.
Yeah, same here. Easton Cowan, you heard it here first, is a lock for the Hall of Fame. He's going to score 500 goals, 1,500 points. He's going to be on Legends Row. Auston Matthews, Mitch Marner, Matthew Nyes, William Nylander, Easton Cowan, all on Legends Row.
No Riley?
Oh, Morgan Riley. Of course, Morgan Riley's going to be on top of Legends Row. You know he's my guy. How could I forget Morgan Riley?
You didn't even say Tavares.
Yeah, because Tavares isn't going to be here when his contract is up in 2 years, Lepore. That dude is gonzo. Gonzo.
Should have talked about that.
But we'll save that. We'll save that for the next episode.
Sure.
All right, everyone. That is going to do it for episode 108 of the Gluttons For Punishment Podcast, or GFP, a Toronto Maple Leafs and NHL podcast hosted by Michael Lepore and Anthony Bruno. If you really enjoyed this episode and you're a first-time listener or a long-time listener, we would really appreciate it if you give us a 5-star rating and review on either Apple or Spotify. And if you've been watching us on YouTube and you really enjoyed the show, smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and smash the notification bell as well, because you'll be notified every single time we release content on the GFP Podcast YouTube channel. But free agency is coming up, and I'm sure there's going to be some fireworks, and we're probably going to hear some news about Matthews and Nylander, whether they're re-signing or they don't intend to, and then the Leafs have to trade one of them, and good Lord, that's just going to be another shit show altogether. But we will be here to cover it all, so until then, enjoy your summer, enjoy free agency, and we will catch you in the next one.
Thanks, everyone.